Right, start again. Good morning. Can we have declarations of interest, please?
Yes, I'd like to declare a small pecuniary interest in the street trading, as we have a shop.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have to declare an interest in item 4 for the voting, and also if we talk about the fees and charges, in that bit of the fees and charges. The minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 29th of September at 1:30. Can you confirm that this is a correct record, please?
Correct. Both.
Thank you. Are there any urgent items?
No, Chairman.
No urgent items. Number 4, I've got requests from the voting committee. Now there's a slight problem here.
Chairman, because you are not quorate if you leave the chamber, as you would do to declare your interest, we will have to leave the voting matters and take them to council.
I thought 4 with quorum.
5.
5.
Oh. We rejigged it when we did the new committee set up, and we put it up.
Oh, what a pain.
So, are you all happy for this item to go straight to council?
Well, you haven't got a choice, Chairman, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
No, it has to. I would stress that the recommendation comes from, as a matter of urgency from the panel. So,
I mean, can it go to, just out of curiosity, can it go to FAS? That's a bit quicker. It's first rather than the 8th.
Well, it would have to be ratified by council anyway. So.
Oh, in that case, what's...
Yeah.
FAS hasn't got the power to pass.
Okay. All right.
Do you need a proposal for that, or it's just automatic, isn't
we'll
it?
just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Item number 5, revenue, budget monitoring and budgets.
We will have to leave the voting. We will have to leave the voting fees and charges as well, Chairman. So.
Okay, fine. So can I hand this over to you?
Right. So, as far as budget monitoring is concerned, we are doing well. The problem in demonstrating that to you now is that they're changing the systems in finance, which I think will be all to the better and will make it much easier to see. But at the moment, I don't think it's as clear as it could be in comparison to the previous time we looked at this in September. But I am assured by finance, and I am confident myself that we are in budget and we are on target. So I would ask that you approve that with me. As far as the fees and charges are concerned, mostly these are set by government, and the only ones we have any say over are on page 25, the annual street trading, down to where it says Licensing Act, and then everything below that is set by government, and that includes the Gambling Act 2005 as well. So, well, the maximum fees are set for that. So it's a very small piece that we actually have responsibility for setting. So, Chairman, and members, any questions?
Any questions, please? Councillor Grotty?
Sorry, yes. So we're not proposing at the moment any increase in the street trading fees, is that correct?
Yes. The figure, to the columns of figures nearest to the left is what it was this year.
That's
the one
right,
in
yeah.
yellow is the one I'm proposing that we charge next year.
Yes.
So 1533 for a grade A first application increases to 1564.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
When does that start then, the new
Which is
one?
relatively
Does that
modest.
start on April 1st? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the
this
time
year.
frame I was querying, yes, because the interest, the fees increase seems relatively modest.
The increase is 2%, yeah.
Yes, yeah, which is, I would have thought, just prudent, really, just to keep a little bit obviously above inflation.
Yeah, I would be mindful that in view of recent discussions, we are not going to be able to afford the luxury of keeping the rates down as low as this in future. Obviously, we can't take an ad hoc decision on that today, but we need to be very mindful that costs are going to rise dramatically across the board.
Chairman, there's absolutely no reason that members couldn't suggest a 3 or 4% increase today rather than the 2% I presented you with.
It's just that I'm not at all taking issue with the report that you've presented. I'm just thinking we've had subsequent information that is influencing the way I am thinking about this. I might even say that we should go with a 3% to start the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And that, as I say, is in the light of recent information that we've got to start raising fees and charges. And I don't know what that would work out. I haven't got a calculator with me, but...
Well, that's not going to be a lot, is it?
No, I know. What I'm thinking about more is the message of sending that we're going... Because it's going to have to rise again next year, and I don't know, Steve, what do you think?
Councillor Sims.
Sorry, I've got a mouthful of sausage roll now. Yeah, I would run with that because it may not be a huge sum, however it all mounts up, and we do need to either cut costs or increase income. And so I would second the proposal at 3%.
Yes, I would go with that. I think it's better to put it up 3% this time and then suddenly put it up maybe 5% next year. If we do 3% this year and then another increase next year, I think it'd be much better.
Obviously, it's small amounts and whatnot, but I think we're establishing a principle and precedence on this because this is the least of our worries in many ways. We're going to have to be very careful financially. So.
Yeah, I will take the 3% across the charges for which this committee is responsible for
Yeah,
all round, okay?
yeah,
Yeah.
Right. Is that a proposal and a seconder?
yeah.
And is everybody in favour of
Yeah.
this? Thank you.
And our members, lost it. Our members content to accept the budget monitoring, please.
Are you
I would, yeah, propose.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify?
Yeah.
We have actually left out the boatman fees because of the situation we've just discussed.
Yes.
Because the recommendation, do you need a proposal to exclude that, or is that taken as a given?
No, we will, it becomes part of the process.
Okay, just checking for
Yeah,
clarification.
we did that before.
Yes, I understand. I was just clarifying that we didn't need, now we've actually got to the fees, to actually restate exactly what we were agreeing the 3% to.
You're not
You-
agreeing
no,
to the
no.
boatman's fees?
That's right.
The wording I used was very clear, that I will take a 3% charge over all the fees this committee is responsible for.
Fine. Thanks.
So
Okay, so members are happy with that, thank you.
we will go on to item 6, review of the street trading. Yes.
Chairman, we had a very useful meeting with the street traders, and I think not many turned up, but those that did were, I think, very full in their discussions with members and how I think it was representative. The other traders saw it. So in this report, I've sort of summarised in 1.2 what we discussed and how we might change it. And then I've tried to take in 2 where I've gone with those decisions, not decisions, those sort of recommendation points that you had. So 2.2, Porthcressa Bank, and that's the grassy bit and the walkway, was to permit street trading on what is known as a pleasure ground. Porthcressa steps, which we considered might have no parking bays either side of the steps. I've addressed this matter through the Senior Manager Infrastructure and Planning, which is Craig Dryden, and he's going to take that through traffic and parking management, but we can't do anything with that at the moment. The Atlantic Slip, we talked about possibly having one small slot there for certain hours of the day, with available to one trader only on a first-come, first-served basis. And I've spoken to Craig about this, and he's in agreement, and we could achieve this for the 2016 trading season, in other words, starting in April. And then we talked about the gig weekend and the difficulty street traders have at gig weekend, and we considered whether to use the area by the telephone boxes in lieu of the Strand and Well Cross, and perhaps the south side of the gate, the north gate, the east gate to the park. In other words, the gate opposite Sports Mode, the side that leads onto Church Street. So where you've got the gate in the middle of the park, as it were, the south side is the piece that leads directly into Church Street, not the other side nearest the stone shop, because people need that in order to turn for the thoroughfare. Okay, and again, Craig was quite in favour of that, and we could possibly secure that with bollards to ensure that it was available to them. I've marked both the last two on the plan that's attached. I have to say the Atlantic doesn't come up terribly well. I perhaps should have chosen another colour, but you can see that I've marked the two places at either end of the park, and there's a very tiny yellow square against the beige of the Atlantic Hotel.
Oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah. And the others are blue.
And the gig weekend ones are blue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I?
Oh, okay. Well, with respect to gig weekend, I thought that they were able to use the north side of the parade down so far as it didn't inhibit access to the thoroughfare at the back of the co-op. I thought that was what we discussed at the time.
Craig considers it will.
Okay, fine. So that's why we move on.
A couple of things. One, that I might be wrong, the so-called pleasure ground. I thought that was governed by a bylaw.
No.
Well, this is something we were told in the past by a previous officer, that there was a bylaw regulating use of Porthcressa. If that's not the case, then I'm delighted. The Atlantic Slip troubles me for various reasons. It's an extremely congested area. It is one that is an emergency exit onto Town Beach and cannot be impeded in any way. So there has to be a very clear understanding of that, because it's already quite a difficult area to get past at various times. Also, when there are spring tides, there are the planks go across. It's completely shut off, so it vastly reduces the area there. I'm very nervous about that one, because I think it risks, with the present congestion and the limitations of access and well, let's call them flood defences, for want of a better word, that it would push anybody further onto the street in an already potentially very congested area. So I've got some reservations about that. I don't know what other members think.
There's absolutely no reason you couldn't put a restriction on it to say that if the storm boards were in place, the site would not be available.
I think I would feel much happier if that were the case, really. It's not to be a wet blanket, but it is a difficult area. I'm also, I think a street trader has to understand that they are lowest in the pecking order when it comes to access, because if there are commercial boatmen who need access to the beach, if there are rescue services that need access, a street trader comes very low in the priority of things, in my opinion. No disrespect to the street traders, but that needs conditioning, I think.
Yeah.
If we needed quick access, the street trader's vehicle will have an engine or will be movable. which could be moved very quickly out.
Yeah, no, as long as they understand that that has to happen. The other thing I am concerned about is a lot of the vehicles that I've seen for street trading, after trading, tend to be left in a particular area. So on a parking space or on a path or whatnot. I think that should cease.
Yeah, we need to ensure that... I don't see why with all sites you couldn't have a time limit. And I think particularly with the Atlantic Slip, I think if you did something like, I don't know, 9 till
I
half
thought
past
you
11.
put 10 to 2, oh no, 10 to 2 is too...
Sorry?
Sorry.
I think if you said something like, I don't know, 9 till 11 and then perhaps in the afternoon 2 till 5 and no evening at all.
But it will be tide dependent there, and that's a little bit, but I think if we have the proviso if storm boards are up, then...
No trading.
But
Yeah.
I certainly would like it written in that once people have finished trading, they remove
Yeah.
the vehicle to its proper place, which is not just to be left around unsupervised.
We can put that on all of them.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bottomley.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to point, yes, at 2.4 you've put with strict times of availability, and you've also put with the agreement of council, so presumably this goes forward, does it, to get ratified?
Yes.
Yeah. And when we do the hatching at the Atlantic Slip, we could perhaps bear in mind where the storm boards are, obviously, and take the Chairman's
Well,
recommendations.
it is hatched in there. I'm going by the diagram.
Yes. Yeah, which does, I was just wondering if it could go, having looked at the diagram, just slightly back, but it's so small it's difficult to actually see. But I would just say, presumably we're going to review this very carefully at the end of the season and see how it's actually worked. Yeah.
I think that's very much the point with this at the
Yeah.
moment, that we do look at it each year.
Well, it does say pilot scheme. It does say pilot somewhere in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And just lastly, with regard to gigs, sorry, are there any road safety implications? Have we checked with the police that they're happy to have the street trading in basically what is the middle of the road and people will be crossing? I know that a lot of that area is pedestrianised for gigs anyway, isn't it?
The point is that the only people who will access that stretch of road are people going to the back of the cooperative, which is early in the morning, generally speaking. And so the traffic is drastically reduced from a normal day to day. So I don't see it as a problem.
Councillor Mumford.
We haven't decided on the actual times on the Atlantic Slipway, have we?
No.
If I remember rightly, the person who was inquiring wished to be there at about 9 till 10:30, wasn't it? 9 to 11. And then they were thinking about the boats coming back, weren't they, at 5 or quarter to
Yes.
5? And then did she want the Solonian as well? I don't know, I can't remember.
You could do, say, 2 till 5 or 3 till 6.
Could
I
we
don't
ask
think you
the
need them
officers
there
to
too long,
could we
really,
de-
do you?
could we
I
delegate?
don't.
I don't know. I'd rather we just made a policy rather than tailor it to individuals, and I think we've got
Yes.
quite a few parameters on there already.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, if you think of the times of these spring tides, they're quite often around 6 o'clock in the evening, aren't
Yes.
they? So
I think
I
9
think
till
the
11
imagine with
is
storm
probably...
boards, this is going to be a bit problematic. So
I think 9 till 11 was okay, but I'm not sure about the afternoon ones. What does everybody else think?
Well, I would say provisionally, yeah, that's fine, because essentially nobody's going to hang around there all day if they're not going to do any business. So it's essentially it's what the market will bear, and if people want to buy stuff, then they'll be there, or if they don't want to buy stuff, they'll go away. I think basically the market will sort that out really, because there's there's no point sitting there all afternoon not selling anything. Storm boards quite often don't go up in the summer, do they? They always go up in the spring. I can't remember.
it depends on the weather forecast, and I haven't got a crystal ball to tell you when the next gale will be, but I know
No.
Wish you had.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's
I know
fine.
the elements will win. That's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I
I just
think
think of
that's
it-
fair enough.
When that day would tend probably not want to trade on that. I think it was probably self-correcting, but by all means, change it. I think, but I haven't got anything else to add, really.
I was recommended to have one of the pasties, and whenever I got down at 10:30, they'd all gone and she'd gone. So she'd always finish selling her pasties by
Yeah,
10:30.
so 9 till 11, but are we going to do an afternoon shift as well? Or are we just going to leave it at the
I'm very wary of
morning?
making this exclusive to one trader.
Yes, no, yes, that's, yes.
Yes.
I mean, are we just going to have 2 slots?
I think if you have something like 9 till 11 and 3 till 6, you might well cover quite a broad spectrum of people.
And it's, especially Chairman Fumi, but I think we've already said it's on a first come, first served basis. haven't we?
Absolutely.
So we cannot
Yes.
tie it to one.
No.
Yeah.
The 9 till 11 and 3 till 6.
So that was really all we were able to do, because Parsons Field, once again, was something that the traffic management and parking management will look at. They are considering a number of options around car parking at the moment. So we're left with an ability to vote on Porthcresser Bank, the Atlantic Slip and Gig Weekend. And so could we perhaps take them in order, Chairman, do you think?
You want to vote on each one?
Yes.
Okay, so can we have a proposer for Porthcresser Bank?
I'm quite happy to propose the whole lot, really.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
I think that we already got any restrictions that the chair of council made are already inherently in there anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I would propose everything.
I'm happy to do that, and you will take with the Atlantic Slip then the fact that when storm boards are in place, there is no access, and if there's necessary to reach the slip in an emergency, the first person off must be the street trader, and you want timings on that area in particular of 9 to 11 and 3 till 6.
Yeah, I think so.
Councillor Gotter.
Thank you. Can we actually enshrine or put into there the fact that this will be subject to a formal review at the end of the first season
Yeah.
to see how the system actually worked?
Yes.
And also, to be fair, to see whether we've had any comments from our resident traders as to how
it's
they have
affected.
worked together, or hopefully everybody has contributed to, if you like, the services we provide to the tourists.
Have I got a seconder, please? We've got a proposer for all of them, but I haven't got a seconder.
Subject to review, yes.
All in favour?
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to abstain
Thank you.
because I'm in 2 minds about some of this, so I shall be happy to see the review of how it pans out.
Okay. And the street trading map supplied with the policy be amended to show these changes. Yeah. You all in favour of that? Okay.
And are we assured that the traffic and parking management won't just put this Parsons, where is it? Parsons Field onto the back burner and forget about it?
Well, Chairman, we'll put it on the list of actions that come out of this committee that will be sent to various senior managers, and we will obviously have to make a response, and I will try and bring that to you at one of the next meetings.
Thank you. Right, any more comments on street trading? We have voted. So agenda number 7, review of the sex licensing policy.
Yes, Chairman. We haven't reviewed this since we adopted it, and whilst I don't think a lot of change is going to be necessary, in fact almost none, it is obviously good that we should look at this again in order to protect the authority and the islands from any random decision that might come about.
I'm slightly bemused about having to form a working party. Do we have to form a working party, the recommendation, or can we not just have this committee as the working party?
Well, I don't mind. You could do it either way. You are a very small committee. You can either do it all as one, and we do most of it by email, like we've done with the licensing and the gambling policy,
Yeah, precisely.
with an occasional meeting. And then it's usually quite straightforward then.
I would propose, on the basis of, as outlined by the Office of the policies we worked on, I would propose, I would recommend a group of 3 members as a working party, and recommend item 2.
So item 2 is the review plan, which starts about now and ends up in a year's time in the beginning of January. So it's quite a long plan, but it's sort of...
Do you want, as part of the recommendation, a nomination of who should sit on the working party?
Just going
In
to
that case,
ask.
I would recommend the chair and vice chair and an other of this committee. Have we got any volunteers? I don't mind volunteering if nobody else does, but...
Avril? Everybody in favour of that we have?
Yeah, well, I've recommended it, so...
It's a shame this isn't like a dog licence, because the council could make a considerable sum of money here.
That'll go straight in the corner. Anyway, I'm happy to recommend that.
Okay, thank you. So is everyone happy with that?
So we've got a recommendation. Have we got a seconder? Thank you, Fran. And is everybody in favour of that? Thank you. He voted with his hand up behind. Item number 8, decisions taken under delegated powers.
We've been quite busy, as you can see, with personal licence renewals and the temporary event notices. But we are actually having a little bit of problem with our software at the moment, which we're hoping to resolve over the next few days. But it has held up some of the renewals that we need to do. And of course, for personal licence renewals, we get no money now. So it's all time, but nonetheless. So we've had no really exciting sort of applications or even minor variations that might be interesting. So it's been very quiet.
Is there no way that we can raise money through personal renewals?
No, absolutely not. The fees for anything under the Licensing Act under the Licensing Act exclusively, the fees are set by central government, and they were set in 2005 when it came online, and they've not changed since then, other than to be reduced or completely cut out. And with the Gambling Act, we've put most of those fees at the maximum. But as we have no gambling establishments, it's not particularly relevant.
Councillor Grotty.
Yes, just worth noting before I make my other comment that when you actually get the personal licence in the first place, it's several £100s. So it's quite an outlay to start with, even if you don't have to pay for the renewal. I was just going to ask the officer how the Pub Watch meeting agenda is progressing. Have you actually attended a Pub Watch meeting?
I attended one, which I have to say was I've attended one which I have to say was not, in my view, particularly useful, because they appeared to arrive at an agreement which, as soon as the meeting was over, 2 days later, was completely disregarded by somebody. It's a very, very tricky situation that we're in at the moment. We have no rights. We are, in our policy, committed to support, which I've done, and I've tried to support them through emails and things like that. There's nothing we can do to force them down a road.
Councillor Gotter.
Excuse me, but the membership, it might be the wording, which I don't know whether we've got any ability to change it, but surely the membership of Pubwatch is conditional, and several licences have it as a condition of their licence. So I suppose there's nothing we can do to actually firm that up to make that a little more forceful. I mean,
Well, if it's a condition on their licence, there's nothing we can do about it. It's a condition. If the membership of Pubwatch requires no fee, so they are members, they are informed of meetings, and most often they come. There's only 5 premises actually that are conditioned, but a condition is a matter on the licence, and it is not our place to alter that unless the premises come up for review or alteration.
But who enforces the condition then? Who enforces the condition? I mean, because the condition only says membership, doesn't it? It doesn't say attendance is the problem. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It just says, you know, you will, we will be a member of Pubwatch.
So we don't really know whether they are a member of Pubwatch or not, but they say they are.
I don't know if they're an attending member of Pubwatch.
They can be a member of Pubwatch, but they might,
It's all very grey, isn't it?
not be an attending
Well,
member.
it's like saying, are you a member of the human race or not, isn't it? You are by design.
It is a very tricky situation, and
I would say, I mean, the officer, you have my every sympathy, because it's same with planning, enforcement, particularly of implicit conditions, is very, very difficult. I mean, in a right-thinking world, everybody would join in and play the game properly, and they don't. I don't know. I'm sure you've explored every avenue of how we can make this more effective. I don't know. I think something needs to happen, but I don't know how it can be engineered. So it's beyond the remit of this committee, I suppose.
We couldn't sort of request a meeting with the chairman of Pubwatch or anything like that. Have they ever been asked to come to a meeting or have a meeting with us informally?
there is no reason why you shouldn't do that. I just would be very wary of a whole committee meeting one person in what might be seen as slightly...
Yeah, slanted one way.
And even the chairman of Pubwatch is going to say he can't make his members attend any more than we can.
No. No.
Thank you. Can we use the vehicle of the Community Safety Partnership? I believe Councillor Molson sits on that as part of his police liaison role. Could we perhaps see whether or not one of the police commissioners' focuses this year have been on issues relating to, I'm choosing my words carefully, the consumption of alcohol and its possible ongoing effects?
I mean, if a premises licence holder wants to join something, they will. But you can't make people join something and join in and take part. You could say to them, your licence says that you have agreed to be a member, but it doesn't make you take part in anything or agree with what they say or be bound democratically, as for instance you are. If you take a decision democratically as members, you all, whether you agree or not, have to go with that final decision because it's the decision of the majority. But they're under no such obligation. They just don't turn up.
It strikes me the only way to have any effect on this at all would be to reword the licence to say a minimum number, minimum attendance at meetings, but even that doesn't
Yeah, this sort of presupposes that actually going to pub watch meetings is much use anyway. I mean, I think pub watch seems to very much be not what it was a few years back. So if they all go to pub watch meetings, well, that doesn't necessarily make a significant difference. As far as I can tell, I mean, I've had this type of conversation 4 times now on the council. I'm sure this conversation had started the week after Lloyd George introduced licensing in 1916. I don't actually, it's a concern. We haven't got powers to do a great deal about it, and it's still a concern, and we still haven't got power, and it goes on and on and on. I think I would say the conversation's worth having just to remind ourselves that we haven't got powers to do anything about it, unfortunately.
I think, Chairman, if you don't mind, I think we should move on because it's not really an agenda item.
No, it's
and,
fine.
You know,
It's interesting. Coming back to decisions under delegated powers, any other questions, please? We are allowed more tens now, aren't we? Up the number of tens? Hasn't that gone up now?
a premises can have up to 15 temporary event notices now. Yeah, the changes are included in the information document that I added to this agenda. And there are a number of small changes that you need to be aware of.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, well, I'm going to propose the recommendation. I'd just like to be sure that, are you comfortable that the tens are paying their way in terms of the ratio of cost towards the time and resources taken and whatnot? Because that might be something that we should increase.
We are not allowed to.
No?
No.
Can't we get any?
No, we're not allowed to increase any fees at all under the Gambling Act, under the Licensing Act. They are all set, or they were all set in 2005 and haven't increased in 10 years, 11 years.
Is the government likely to undertake a review of that situation anytime soon that we know of?
They have thought about it, and they asked everybody to submit a cost ratio, and about, I think 10 or 12 authorities did. I mean, it was a complicated spreadsheet we had to fill in. We did, here in the Isles, we did do it, but it worked out to something like 4 A3 pages in very narrow thing about working out and how to do it, and it was complicated, and it took me a whole day. I'm make excuse that I'm not a mathematician, but nonetheless, it took me a whole day. And we were among the very small minority of authorities who responded to it, and the government therefore assumed that everybody else was happy.
Yeah, well, I think we need to encourage the government to revisit. I don't know how we do that, but I think it's ridiculous because things are taking a disproportionate amount of time, therefore resources, and it can't be just our authority that's struggling with that.
No.
Yeah, well, I will propose the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder, please. All in favour? Thank you. And that concludes the meeting.
Yes, lovely, 3/4 of an hour, well done. Plenty of time. It's quite drifting off into watch.
Yeah, but it does answer questions, isn't it?
I think there absolutely nothing about it. It's deeply frustrating, I understand. But
It's to the what I can't understand.